Hello and welcome to the SIWI Sofa, where we sit down with some of the most interesting participants at the World Water Week to learn more about the array of water-related issues being discussed this week in Stockholm. My name is Eric Paglia, host of the SIWI Sofa, and in this session, we're going to be discussing how technology in the water sector can advance sustainability and help achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, specifically goal number 6. And I'm joined here by Mr. Patrick Decker, the CEO of Xylem.
Good morning.
Good morning, and a multinational water technology company, also the main sponsor of the Stockholm Junior Water Prize, which will be the topic of a session a little later on today.
Yes.
We're going to meet the winners and also meet another Xylem representative.
Great.
I thought it would be a great opportunity now to sit down now with the CEO, Mr. Decker, and discuss the overall operations and the philosophy of Xylem and how you are aiming to help achieve sustainable development goals.
Sure, happy to be here.
So let's start by asking, considering that we're here in Stockholm, which is an important place for the water industry and the birthplace of the first submersible pump, Xylem's Fluke pump.
Yes.
Since Fluke's introduction, the water industry has seen tremendous technological advancements. What do you see as the most prevalent trends that are driving technology and innovation in the water industry today?
Well, great. Well, thanks again for having me here this morning. It's one of the highlights of my role being the leader of Xylem to be able to come to Stockholm every year. I continue to be more and more impressed, not only by the overall event, but what we see coming out of the Junior Water Prize. And so we did give away the award last night, and I'm just so inspired by these young kids and the ideas and technology they're coming up with. In terms of Stockholm, Stockholm has clearly a very important role to play in the water sector globally. It also has a very important role in Xylem's history. To the point that you made, when we introduced Flick back in the 50s, it was the first submersible pump. It really transformed the wastewater sector. And then in the 90s, we introduced our in-pump technology, which really focused on operating efficiency. Just a few months ago, we then launched Concertor, which is the world's first smart, intelligent wastewater pump that is self-controlling, self-monitoring, and is able to be monitored remotely as well. And then just a couple of weeks ago, we announced the acquisition or the signing of an agreement to acquire Census, which is a leader in smart metering technology as well as big data analytics for the public utility sector. So there are a number of trends that are affecting the water sector from a technology advancement standpoint. Certainly as we look forward, there's so much data being gathered in various aspects of the water sector that the utilities themselves are struggling with what to do with that data. But they understand there's so much rich data there to help them be smarter about how they run their operations, but also how they work to make the planet more resilient in terms of water infrastructure. So it really is driven by the customer needs, which differ by sector of the water industry, and we'd be more than happy to elaborate on some of those issues.
Well, I think the idea of smart water technology, I think, is very fascinating. It seems like it comes up from time to time here this week. Could you perhaps say a bit more about that, how a smart water technology actually works in practice?
Sure, so it's evolving, and I would say it's evolving at different rates of pace around the world. What I can say is we don't see any utilities now putting in dumb infrastructure anymore. And so it's really a matter of any new greenfield work that's being put in place. Those customers are already building in smart networks. And so it really depends upon which sector of the water industry you're talking about. Very briefly, if you think about the issues that we face in what we call outdoor or surface water, hydrological challenges really resolve around water quality as well as the resilience of water infrastructure due to climate change. So whether it be meeting regulatory requirements, helping customers manage that water more smartly, that has big data trends that we are supporting as we speak. If you then think about water that's been treated and is now being moved to its point of use, referred to as the clean water network, the challenges that utility operators there face are typically things like non-revenue water, as well as other forms of water resilience challenges that they're facing. And then once that water is consumed and used, it needs to be taken back to a wastewater treatment operation. That's where we've historically played with our Flick and other pumps along the way. Customers' needs in that area really are related to energy efficiency. We published a report late last year, right around the time of the COP21 negotiations, called Powering the Wastewater Renaissance. And what that report spoke to was that several percent of the world's greenhouse gas emissions are actually generated by water management. And the technologies already exist today to abate those emissions by up to 50% at a negative or neutral cost if they were actually adopted. Part of that is using big data to help our customers understand what's driving that energy consumption, but also to minimize their operating downtime when a pump station breaks.
The theme of this year's World Water Week is Water for Sustainable Growth. How does Xylem contribute to that sustainable growth?
Well, we're very proud in what our focus is there. First of all, we pride ourselves on being one of the only large pure play water companies that are out there that really focus in on sustainability of the water industry. There are really three sectors that we focus on. First is the productive use of water, so really focusing in on energy efficiency, minimizing downtime, et cetera. The second is water quality. The obvious aspects of water quality, whether it be environmental regulation or whether it be the treatment of water for its consumption by individuals or industry. And then third is helping build resilient infrastructure to really make it resilient against climate change as well as other weather disruptions.
The world of technology moves quite fast. While the water industry, it's typically slower to adapt, more inertia. Do you think the water industry can actually keep up with technological advancements?
Oh, absolutely. I think the politics of water are changing quite rapidly around the world, and that's being driven by the realities of rapid urbanization, population growth, and climate change. The fact that the World Economic Forum for the last 2 years running has identified water as a #1 global economic threat to the planet, I think is getting people's attention. Unfortunately, it also takes hotspots and flashpoints around the world, whether it be Flint, Michigan, whether it be increased flooding and weather events in the U.S., whether it be drought and other issues across the emerging markets. The reality is that governments can no longer afford to avoid making some of those investments in water infrastructure. But at the same time, we recognize that the private sector also has a significant role to play in funding those investments and helping governments and industry understand the life cycle economics of the investments that can be made in smart technology to drive some of those benefits.
Emerging economies is one of the areas where Xylem is really intent upon growing. Could you perhaps speak a bit about that, how you're helping to improve water infrastructure in countries in the developing world?
Sure. So there really are a few key areas that we're trying to make an impact in a number of the world's fastest growing economies. And our focus right now is in places such as China, India, across Southeast Asia, ASEAN, the Middle East, and South America. And the challenges are unique in each one of those areas. There are some commonalities, but many differences. But one is the rapid industrialization, and so helping industrial clients in those countries be smarter in their use of water. Obviously helping the actual water utilities themselves make smart investments around energy efficiency, building in monitoring and control capabilities where they can actually capture big data and make smart analysis out of that to make better decisions. But at the same time, we're really proud of what we do at Xylem in one of our signature programs called Watermark, which is historically been a corporate social responsibility program that we've had in place for a number of years now, and we've affected millions of people's lives around the world at the bottom of the pyramid, where people really do not have access to safe, clean drinking water and are not knowledgeable about hygiene. It's a program that I'm extremely proud of. I'm personally vested in that program. It's an opportunity for our leaders and our people around the world to not only give money, but also give their time building things like water towers, educating people on hygiene and water use. And so those programs are very much focused right now on developing economies around the world. Because at the end of the day, while we are a public company, we do have shareholders, we have to generate a very good return for our shareholders. We want to do well by doing good. And this is a great way for us to put our money where our mouths are, but also put our time where our mouths are in helping people in those developing countries.
And speaking of doing good, could you say how the Sustainable Development Goals, specifically number 6, are shaping the innovations and operations at Xylem?
Yes, so we have our own stated goals around both greenhouse gas consumption, but also in the area of water. And so we've got some very aggressive stated goals there to reduce our own water footprint. But we pride ourselves in being able to help our customers manage, monitor, and reduce their water footprint as well. I think at the end of the day, when we think about the impact of climate change specifically, the work that we do in helping water utilities build more resilient water infrastructure is one area. The second is when we help them again in the area of reducing their energy consumption. As I alluded to earlier, powering the wastewater renaissance report, I think, is a game changer in the industry. It's our job now to make sure we get that word out and help customers better understand that you can make really smart investments and afford some of those large infrastructure projects and make them economically attractive over time if we just use smart technology and build smart networks.
And what can we expect to see from Xylem over the next few years? A move to focus on solutions rather than technologies and products, perhaps?
Well, I think there will always be a role for us to be market leaders in the products and the technology that we offer. I think it's difficult to become a true solutions provider to a customer if you don't also bring with you the deep domain expertise around the products and technologies that plug into smart networks. At the same time, one of the clear areas that we see as a big growth opportunity, there's an estimate that in the U.S. alone, that cities and states are going to be spending up to $2 billion on replacing and building and putting in place smart metering technology to help reduce non-revenue water. And so with the signed agreement that we announced 2 weeks ago with Census, we couldn't be more excited to have them join our Xylem family, where we are really strong today in wastewater sector and networks and outdoor water. They are deeply submersed in the clean water sector, as well as the work they do with gas, electric utilities, and smart lightings around cities. And so the whole move towards the intersection of managing water within the context of a smart city, I think more and more people are beginning to realize those issues are inseparable. You can make all the investments you want in smart water infrastructure, but if you don't have the other power grids or the other road infrastructure to support that network, it doesn't really matter. And so I think cities are going to get smarter about that as we go forward. And I think Census is going to be a tremendous addition to our portfolio.
Well, Patrick Decker, CEO of Xylem, thank you very much for joining us here on the SIWI Sofa.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And thanks for tuning in to the SIWI Sofa. Stay tuned for more episodes throughout the World Water Week.